You want to become a polymath. Society keeps telling us to pick one thing and stick with it for life. But if you look at the most influential people in the world, they're polymaths. They've built up knowledge in all kinds of different areas and used it to create stuff no one ever saw coming. And guess what? You don't need to be a genius or spend years in school to become a polymath. This step-by-step guide will show you how to build a polymathic mind fast and stand out in whatever field you choose. Step 1. Build a skill stack. Before you even start studying, there's a key decision to make. Figure out which fields you want to invest your time and mental energy in. It's not enough to say, I want to learn a bit of everything, because without a clear direction, you risk spreading yourself too thin and ending up with just superficial knowledge. To help you pick the right subjects to focus on, there are 3 main criteria to keep in mind. Personal interest. Studying something you're passionate about makes the whole process more enjoyable and sustainable in the long run. Applicability. At least one of the subjects should have a real impact on your life, career, or personal projects. For example, if your goal is to build a business, focus on learning topics that help you reach that goal. Complementarity. Combining related skills is way more effective than mixing unrelated ones, which don't lead to a clear or professional outcome. You don't need to pick your final areas right away. Start with the ones you're curious about, and if you realize one of them isn't for you, just switch it out for something that inspires you more. Step 2. Learn fast. When you're facing a new discipline, the temptation is to want to learn everything all at once. But any discipline is actually made up of a bunch of key parts that you can break down and learn one at a time. That's the first step to learning faster. Break it down. Ask yourself, what are the core principles of this field? Take drawing, for example. It doesn't make sense to start by trying to copy a super detailed painting. It's way more helpful to master individual elements, and once you've got those micro skills down, putting it all together becomes much more natural. Once you've broken the discipline down, you need to decide where to start. This is where the Pareto principle comes in. Focus on that key 20% that will give you most of the results. If you're learning a new language, don't start with advanced grammar or weird verb tenses. Start with the most common words you'd actually use in everyday conversations. To become a polymath, you basically need 3 things: tons of curiosity, consistency, and time to learn new stuff. Now, let's assume you've already got the curiosity and consistency part down. Time might be the tricky one. So, for this reason, managing time effectively becomes essential. One of the easiest ways to do that is using time blocking. It's all about breaking your day into specific chunks, where each block has a different purpose. That way, every part of your routine helps you build your skills. For example, in the morning, you could dive into some deep work, basically. Tackle the hard stuff while your brain's fresh. In the afternoon, you could focus on skill stacking. Then, in the evening, review what you did and prep for the next day. Over time, you might notice you're spending more time on something you think you need, and not enough on something you actually need. So it's a good idea to check in at least once a month and adjust your time blocks based on what's really working for you. Learning fast doesn't just mean sitting down to study. It also means surrounding yourself with everything related to what you're trying to learn. The more you're exposed to that skill in everyday life, the faster you'll absorb what you need. If you're interested in business, for example, don't just stick to reading technical books on the topic. Watch interviews with people who run companies, understand the problems they deal with every day, and read real stories about projects that succeeded or failed. Apply what you learn right away. If you just watch without doing anything with what you've just studied, you're only piling up concepts that fade away quickly. Real learning happens when you start using them. This idea is called active learning. Every time you learn something, look for the most direct way to put it into practice. Step 3. Increase skill transfer. One of the key skills to becoming a polymath is being able to transfer what you learn from one field to another. It's not enough to just accumulate knowledge. You need to be able to use it in different contexts, sometimes far from the original area. This process is called transfer of learning, and it's what lets you connect concepts across disciplines and create something original. Research shows that transfer happens more easily when 2 subjects share similar structures, but it can also be trained between seemingly unrelated fields. There are 2 main types of transfer: Near transfer, when you apply what you've learned in a similar context. For example, you learn to drive a car and then you learn to drive a van. And far transfer, when you apply it in a completely different context. For example, you use music skills to improve in math. To become a polymath, you need to develop both. So, how do you do this? Start by thinking about how what you've just learned could be useful in other situations. Ask yourself, how could I apply this concept somewhere else? In what context would this be useful? This way, you train your mind to spot connections between different subjects, greatly stimulating your creativity. Step 4. Create real projects. Knowledge really starts to take shape when you use it to build something real. Pick a project and try to connect the different things you're learning. Projects push you to deal with real-world problems and give you instant feedback on what works and what doesn't. If you're studying history and video editing, you could mix the two by making a YouTube video where you talk about ancient history. It's exactly when you try to bring your interests together in a real project that your polymath brain kicks into gear. To help you out with this step, I made this video you can find on the channel. Thanks for the support and see you next time.